I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zayas Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark, for real this time. Welcome everyone to to me and you as we biasly react to the Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide.
Mark is trolling me again. What else is new?
Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide is the Lost Omens that come before Lost Omens Ancestry Guide. So if you haven't seen us be biased about that yet, they still are actually up on Twitch, like, for once, so you actually can. There's 2 episodes of it, part 1 and part 2. Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide, as usual for some of these, is brought to you by development leads Eleanor Farron and Luis Loza, and design lead me. Plus, this one has editing lead Leo.
Yes. This one has, this one's author pool is...
It's actually smaller than most of the Lost Omens author pools.
Well, this one's author pool is very much slanted toward current and former members of the organized play team, as well as freelancers who have done a lot of work for Pathfinder Society products.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's only like a couple on here who don't meet that description. So we've got, if you look at the authors, actually we could put up the page. Remember how biased we are towards table of contents?
Oh man,
table of contents is so good. Look at this table of contents.
This is a table of contents, let me tell you.
Yes,
all right, this tells you all about who's worked on this book.
You
so
can see that.
The authors over there.
You could see
it's
got
Kate
Baker, James Case, who was at the time on the organized play team, John Compton, who was not at the time but had been for a while before that, Vanessa Hoskins, Mike Kimmel, who is now on the organized play team. It's got the once and future past organized play team. Ron Lundeen, Dennis Muldoon, Kieran Newton, Michael Sayer, Clark Valentine, Tanya Woldridge, and Linda Zayas Palmer. Actually, why am I not on the author list?
You should be on the author list.
I wrote a bunch of stuff in this book.
That is weird.
That is weird. Well, we figured out an errata.
Yes, we did.
Or erratum.
Fair enough.
I will make a note to myself that I'm not on the author list for a book that I wrote on. Let's see. Not on author list of Lost
I can't guarantee that you did indeed write for this
Society Guide.
Note made.
All right, note made. All right. That having been said.
Yes.
It's a really cool book, and we're going to be super biased about it as we continue onward into the book. So let's start with we actually started with the table of contents, but after that we can start with the introduction.
Which gives you information about what is the Pathfinder Society, as well as how to join Pathfinder Society Organized Play.
How do you join Pathfinder Society Organized Play?
Anyone can join Pathfinder Society Organized Play.
They can?
Yes.
Even me? I can't join Pathfinder Society
Organized Play. Because you joined it over a decade ago?
Yes. I think that is living proof that I can't join Pathfinder Society Organized Play, if anything is. What would I do if I did want to join Pathfinder Society Organized Play, which I can't?
Because you already did.
Yeah, what would I do?
Well, as the book recommends, you want to check out the campaign website, pathfindersociety.club.
Pathfindersociety.club, you say?
For more information.
Okay, well, then I guess I would if I wanted to join. Also, Acrobat Reader is giving me fits with the file, so I've been kind of opening and closing it while asking you about how to join.
If you go to pfschat.com, you'll find an invite to the Organized Play online server where you can connect with a lot of folks who are currently active in the community. And in post-pandemic times, you'll also be able to meet up with other Pathfinder Society players at game stores and physical conventions.
Game stores and physical conventions? Yes. What are those?
Well, you see, Mark, when there's not.
Oh boy!
You can also play Pathfinder Society. You can also play Pathfinder Society with your friends online or at home or wherever else you like. There are no requirements to be a Pathfinder Society GM other than being someone who wants to run games for people.
That's right. Thanks for subscribing, by the way, Dranzior. I didn't see it because I was dealing with our good friend Acrobat Reader. So, that sounds good. I would do it, but I've already done it. So, that's a cool introduction, and it looks like there's also some backgrounds that are in here. Are these backgrounds for people in real life who went to PathfinderSociety.club, or are they for our characters?
These are backgrounds for our characters. I mean,
so you're saying that you don't qualify for the archaeologist background if you found the way to join the Pathfinder Society?
No, but I'm sure that by this point I qualify for the Pathfinder recruiter background.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the Trailblazer background?
I haven't done. No, anything that involves mapping, I would not qualify for because I could get I can get lost in my own neighborhood.
What about the translator background?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. What about spell seeker? Spell seeker doesn't make sense.
No, obviously not. Yes.
All right. So that makes sense. So there's just some extra backgrounds here that are excellent fits for aspiring Pathfinder.
We should probably mention real quick that the Pathfinder Society is a fellowship of adventurers who operate under the motto "Explore, Report, Cooperate."
Yeah, let's actually go back to that. So there are two things called Pathfinder Society.
Yes.
In the game world, it's what Linda said.
Yes.
It's adventurers and archaeologists who explore, report, and cooperate. It's a neutral organization, but it generally tends to be more heroic than it is dastardly, especially for you, the people who are playing as agents.
Especially in modern years, there's certainly some skeletons in the closet, some of which players have had their characters dig up and clean out of those closets,
and sometimes animate into their skeletal companions. So that is in world. Out of world, this Pathfinder Society that I was talking about, can I join, but I can't really join because I've already joined, is an out of world organization that, like Linda said, allows you to play a persistent character around the world at these mythical game stores that are going to open back up after the forever times of staying at home.
Yes. And
conventions as well as online. So
yes. So the Pathfinder Society organized play is an organization, a real-world organization of players who are playing characters whose unifying theme is that they're all members of the in-world Pathfinder Society.
That's right. So it overlaps because if you, the person, are in the Pathfinder Society, then your character is also in the Pathfinder Society.
Not that this ever causes confusion.
I'm sure this never confused a single person ever at all.
Clearly.
All right. Anyway. That's my biased opinion. So, moving on.
Moving on to the history of the Pathfinder Society. Here, one of the really cool things about the history of the Pathfinder Society here is that, and we had a fair amount of Pathfinder history that appeared in some of the first edition Pathfinder Society sources, but this history also takes a strong look at the events that have happened since the campaign began. So the events that have been shaped by players, interacting with the stories that players have interacted with, and the decisions that they made in the course of adventures that helped to shape the story.
That's right. And the part that Linda's talking about is not even on this spread because this history is long.
Yes.
Is long. It keeps going. History. It keeps going. And it keeps going. And it keeps going.
Yes.
And then you get to the part that players shaped.
Yes, that's right.
There's a lot of information in here from the fact that the Pathfinder Society was founded over 400 years ago during a pub crawl to all sorts of different things that happened throughout that period of time. And then eventually to the recent history of the Pathfinder Society, which takes into account the decisions that were made by the players of the organized play campaign.
Yes, as well as information on some of the rivals and allies of the Pathfinder Society. So this book of course, is useful for players and GMs who are interested in the Pathfinder Society organized play campaign.
But what if I'm not?
But the Pathfinder Society as an in-world organization is a rather natural backdrop for a campaign because it allows for PCs who come from any sort of background to come together and be united by a call for adventure. It's very natural for a campaign that you might want to have that's more episodic, where you're going to go to a lot of different adventures and have that centralized theme. And it's also natural for a campaign with a more unified purpose, like Shattered Star, the adventure path, where the PCs are all members of the Pathfinder.
But what if I don't want to do that either?
What if
I'm just doing a home campaign and I refuse to do it as a unified Pathfinder Society theme, and it's not in Pathfinder Society?
Well, the Pathfinder Society organization is also an interesting contact or rival to introduce into your campaigns because they do have a lot of interest in, they do have their fingers in a lot of pies. They are people who explore a lot of historical sites. They sometimes hire people as contractors to assist them with a variety of things. So Pathfinder Society agents could provide leads for your characters in that case.
Okay.
Or you may have a group of agents that thinks that they should be the ones to explore a certain site who your PCs are then rivals against. They get into everything. They get into politics, they get into archaeology, and agents. While the organization as a whole has its general motives, there are also unscrupulous agents in their ranks who may be going about things for their own personal gain.
I know I've definitely done an encounter where like Pathfinder Society agents were rivals, and some of them just did wild and nonsensical things during the battle, and people are like, what are you doing? Why are you climbing that tower while we're fighting against the PCs? It's like, well, I have a faction mission.
Yes, that's a reference to some of the
old days.
The old days of the Pathfinder Society campaign, where people had very specific faction-specific missions in every adventure.
That's right. All right, so there's a lot of history.
But yeah, if your group is certainly if your group are members of any of these organizations that are presented as rivals of the Pathfinder Society, such as the
Whispering Way
Consortium,
you could have a Whispering Way campaign.
or the Whispering Way, or if you guys are
Red
Mantis Assassins, or even in different places too. You'll see later when we get later into this that there's Pathfinder Society lodges that are presented with their own allies and rivals, so you could easily be a member of one of those organizations that's interacting closely with the society in a particular region.
You could be a member of the Concordance of Elements.
You could. An interplanar organization that is devoted to the balance among the elements.
Mm-hmm. And then it ends with an essay about the society being in flux and Pathfinder slang that are very important slang that you need to know from for Pathfinders. For example, did you know that Axe Envoy is actually the Pathfinder slang word for murder hobo?
An unpredictable or short-sighted adventurer who turns to violence before trying to understand or de-escalate.
That's right. And then there's Dressed for the Convocation, where you're fully armed and expecting trouble, a snide reference to villains' tendency to attack during the society's grand convocation. That's probably the best one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's it like if you are a member of the Pathfinder Society? Well, this next section tells you more about that. What is life like in the Pathfinder Society? How do you join the Pathfinder Society?
In-world.
In-world.
Yes.
From now on, we're talking about in-world unless I say otherwise. Because this book is written from the in-world perspective. How does your character join the Pathfinder Society?
How do you join the Pathfinder Society, Linda?
Well, generally, a lot of folks travel to Absalom, on a voyage, and those who grow up in Absalom generally are expected to have some kind of other discovery or adventure that they've had. You can't just be like, oh, I made the journey 2 streets over to apply for the Pathfinder.
It was hard. I had to cross the street. I had to look both ways. Accept me.
So you have some kind of journey or discovery that you put forth as...
does that mean that if you're from Diabell that you don't have to do another discovery, even though it was pretty close?
The society is going to make their own judgment on whether you have a worthy journey or discovery to show that you are a promising candidate.
If I know anything, it's that Pathfinder Society, new recruits and potential recruits are going to rules lawyer those rules about whether they can join the society or not.
But the problem is that the leadership of the Pathfinder Society often has experience being a field agent, which means that they're pro rules lawyers. You want to try to out rules lawyer Creighton Shane?
I mean, he might just get distracted by a flower in the middle of the rules lawyering.
He might. Anyway, once you've joined the Pathfinder Society, then most agents undergo a period of several years of training, and this book talks about what that training entails, making sure that they're ready for all sorts of missions. And then finally they have a confirmation, which is a test of skill that an agent who passes that confirmation test is able to join as a full agent. Often requires the agent to show resourcefulness, to travel, and to exemplify the Pathfinder Society's motto of explore, report, and cooperate. Which is mentioned again on this next page. Explore, report, cooperate. The section also talks about the Pathfinder Chronicles, which are the record of many of the most notable achievements of the Pathfinder Society that get published. All around the world. And that's something that a lot of agents seek, is to see their name written up in the Chronicles.
Well, because people don't hear really about things that don't make it into the Chronicles, not nearly as much anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this section talks about all sorts of other things. Who are the leaders? What are some of the major discoveries? And what's some of the controversy over the society's actions? Because as Mark said before, the society may tend more heroic, particularly in modern days, but that doesn't mean that their behavior is always squeaky clean. And that
it definitely isn't.
That they're always appreciated.
I'm just saying that
go.
Nowadays they're trying to be a little more heroic than the average of neutral.
Yes.
It sounds like that they are actually pretty controversial, though, and that there are people who are definitely trying to stir up sentiment against the Pathfinder Society.
That is true in several places around the world.
Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. If you meddle that much,
some people aren't going to like you.
It's a non-state actor that is just going extraterritorially into other countries and
with heavily armed, highly trained military people who...
I mean, they're almost not just military people. Yeah. They're almost like weapons, the mass destruction. Some of those high-level adventurers.
Yeah, you have these organized bands of adventurers who are going around for their own motives and all sorts of stuff. So you can see why a lot of people would be suspicious of them.
I'd probably be suspicious of them too.
Yeah. And right here, we have the next section, the Pathfinder Society factions. And you can see a lot of the Pathfinder Society faction leaders gathered around a table here.
That's right.
We've got Calistro Bennery, Eondo Klein, Gorham Greathammer, and Fola Baroon here. So, the factions within the Pathfinder Society are, there's a history of factions within the Pathfinder Society. And this is something that ties a fair bit also to the Pathfinder Society organized play campaign, as well as the in-world Pathfinder Society. Factions basically are organizations within the Pathfinder Society that have some sort of a common goal. Initially, when we presented factions, they were based on nations. So we had factions like Chiliacs who were interested in advancing advancing the interests of Chiliacs, and the Andoran faction interested in advancing the interests of Andoran. We then moved to more ideological factions.
You could see them on the previous faction sidebar.
Section here.
Dark
like
Archives.
Liberty's Edge.
Freedom.
Dark Archives for finding dangerous relics. Exchange, money, etc. So we had different factions.
Money is a type of ideology.
That is true. Controlling to advance through the power of coin, as it says there.
That's right.
So we had
Grand Lodge, which is like, enough with these factions.
Yes. Exactly. So we had these sorts of factions, and then with the flip over to second edition, in the game world, was also a time of transformation for the Pathfinder Society organization, because they had just incurred significant losses in a mission to stop the schemes of the Whispering Tyrant, and they were looking to restructure some things. So the way that factions work nowadays is that factions are organized not based on championing a particular goal or like a side organization outside of the Pathfinder Society as much. They're more based on what is it that draws that agent to be a Pathfinder. So they're more internal in focus. So you have, for example, the Envoys Alliance, which is the faction that's sort of centered around the Pathfinder Society motto of cooperate. The Envoys Alliance looks to build alliances. They look to support agents in the field, and generally they are going to be promoting more solutions that are based on peaceful peaceful solutions, or working together with folks, gathering information, those sorts of things.
That makes sense.
So you've got their symbol here is the open door, and the motto, strength in community. And the Envoys Alliance came out of some of that ideology of the old Shadow Lodge faction from a few years ago. And actually, the Envoys Alliance faction exists in the game because of surveys that the Pathfinder Society, that the organized play team, the people who work at Paizo did.
Linda.
So we did surveys to figure out like what kinds of factions people were going to want to have in the Pathfinder Society going forward.
Explore, report, and cooperate were the three things they wanted the most.
Well, this one was a write-in, actually. We didn't initially have the explore, report, cooperate framework, but we realized that as we were continuing to develop it. But we had a list of ideas for folks to vote on, and we also had a space for people to write what would you want. And there were two standouts that came out of that, and one of them was a faction that was inspired by that sort of Shadow Lodge idea of taking care of agents and reform within the society and building connections. So that's where
you didn't have it on there, but explore, report, and cooperate. They did. Won.
And the other one that came out of that is one of the minor factions, actually mentioned on the previous page here, the Verdant Wheel, which is our nature faction.
Yep. Honestly, like, the nature one could have been on there. That was a known quantity that there were people who wanted it, but the number of write-ins was still pretty high.
Yeah, well, we took a variety of ideas that were things that we knew we wanted to potentially play around with, and that had been factions in the past, so we could see what people wanted to pick up on. And we also have the other minor faction, the Radiant Oath, the spiritual successor to the old Silver Crusade faction. The Radiant Oath is focused on doing good in the world.
Be good.
Yes.
Kindness, compassion, and redemption.
Yes, there's a lot of folks who want that to be their character's focus, so there's a faction for you. So going back to the sort of the major factions, the most prominent ones.
Envoys Alliance.
Envoys Alliance.
You talked about that. Spiritual successor to the Shadow Lodge. They watch out for Pathfinders. They recruit new Pathfinders.
And each of these entries,
they cooperate.
Yes. Each of these entries has a set of new gear that is associated with the faction, as well as a profile on the faction's leader. In this case, Fola Baroon, seen here in an amazing dress. I want that dress in real life. And yeah, Fola Baroon is...
You heard it, folks. Linda wants that dress in real life.
Anyway, so Fola Baroon is someone who was recruited to the Pathfinder Society in part by players who were by people's characters who met her in some of the first.
This loud players that doesn't break your ears, brought to you by our microphone.
Yeti mic. Yes. And she was a leader among a group of Ekujae elves in the Mwangi Expanse, who upon getting to know some Pathfinder agents became interested in sort of what they were up to, and is particularly interested in reform within the organization.
So you can say that she's here, and it's all because of a bat.
Yes.
Because of the demon bat god Kamazatz, who's not this bat.
Yes.
Alright. Well, it seems like the Envoys Alliance is a good faction to join. What about the other factions?
So,
let's see.
The Grand Archive, is built out... Grand Archive...
Is that like the Grand Lodge and the Dark Archive combined?
Pretty much, yes. Well, basically, we didn't want to have a faction that was just, like, generic Pathfinder anymore. We wanted to make sure that all the factions had a specific goal.
They're the report faction,
report faction.
That's why they have a quill.
Yeah, they're the report faction. So they have sort of they're about the pursuit and preservation of knowledge. So they take some of the bits of the Dark Archive, the ones that are about knowledge, and they take some of the ideas about report from the original Grand Lodge faction, and they're really focused on preserving lost knowledge, both by finding things from lost civilizations, and also then they are ones who might be looking to make connections with different cultures in order to preserve knowledge.
Can you preserve lost knowledge, though?
Can you?
Can you? If it was lost, how can you preserve it?
Well, they have to find it first if it's lost.
Okay.
So they want to preserve knowledge, both the lost knowledge of ancient civilizations.
They want to find knowledge that was lost and preserve knowledge so it won't be lost.
Yes.
That makes sense. It looks like they've got some items too.
That is true. Everybody's got.
The Envoys Alliance had like a body recovery kit to help bring people back from the dead and communication. They've got some kind of a dwarven boulder head brew.
The book thief brew.
So you could help steal people's books, because
make an exact copy of words.
How else are you going to report without stealing somebody else's books?
Yep.
The Chronicler Wayfinder that can assist you with lore.
Assist you with lore skills.
I feel like, if I remember correctly, that was in my Wayfinder section, and we ran out of space.
Yeah, so we moved it up there because
it really fits with the Grand Archive.
The stiletto.
See, I promise I wrote something.
Yep.
And then there's the stiletto pen. The
stiletto pen, because, if you want to do the whole spy thing where you have a pen that's secretly a knife, then there you go.
Leave it to the Pathfinders to stab someone with their pen, right?
There you go.
And a waterproof journal, because if you preserve lost knowledge and then it gets wet, it'll be lost if it's not in a waterproof journal.
So we have profile here of the faction leader, Gorm Greathammer, who you might recognize from the
Iron Fang Invasion
adventure path, and several recent Pathfinder Society scenarios. He's really a faction leader who's always likes to be on the move and doing his own missions and participating in his own chronicling.
Sounds pretty dwarfy to me.
So you're a lot more likely to see him showing up in the form of faction letter rather than actually seeing him physically there in person, unless you're on the same site. Speaking of traveling, we have the Horizon Hunters.
They're the Explorer faction.
Faction, yes. They are very much focused on going to places. They're very much focused on exploring places, and on self-promotion, really. They want to explore places. They want to be awesome. They want to get their name in the chronicles.
But the people who actually do the chronicles and the reporting are the Grand Archive.
Yes, that's true.
Is there some kind of push and pull where the Grand Archive are like, okay, we hear you, Horizon Hunters, but we're gonna put ourselves in the chronicles?
I mean, they who write the history shape what's recorded for posterity. So yeah, there's definitely sort of that dynamic. And it's important here too that, like, traveling to a faraway area and and meeting up with a new culture, and then being like, I discovered this area. Like that's one of the surest ways to get yourself mocked in the Horizon Hunters is to have claimed to discover things from another civilization that is not that is currently living and thriving.
That makes sense. They are the Horizon Hunters, not the take credit for somebody else's civilization hunters.
Yes, that is true. And
sounds like they're kind of more chaotic than some of these other Pathfinders.
And they also have, and these sections really give us a chance to explore more. See what I did there? Explore more about what it's like to be in the faction. Present more NPCs, and present things like Horizon Hunters, for example, often have a personal mark that they might write in certain areas.
Does that mean you're a Horizon Hunter?
It might be.
I mean, you have a personal mark.
That is true. And they sort of like the inspired by the runes, some of the runes that some of the Grogkaskar dwarves use to mark some of the farthest places that they've traveled.
Looks like they've got astrolabes and cartographer's kit and rulers. That's a useful one.
Yeah. Well, I discovered that there was no
Sturdy
such thing as a ruler in Pathfinder, so I just tossed one in there, and it's not uncommon because it's just a ruler. Yeah, so this is a section that I wrote here, wanting to make sure that they had some sturdy gear that they can use for navigation, and their faction leader...
So you wrote the Horizon Hunters.
Yeah, I did. And their faction leader, Calistro Bennery, former pirate, who was the captain of the Grinning Pixie, the ship that is also a Pathfinder lodge. It's a lodge that you're supposed to only be the captain of for a year, but she kind of just kept extending it by saying, I've got this Gloomspire's mission that I'm doing. And eventually the society was like, seriously, Calistro, you were supposed to have this for a year. You finished your Gloomspire's mission. It's been like 8 years now. We need to give this ship to someone else. She was not happy. But they were able to buy her off with a large sum of money. And to negotiate something where she got a large sum of money, and also she became this faction leader, and she bought herself a new vessel called the Glorious Payoff, in acknowledgement of the fact that she thinks she got a pretty darn good deal.
Plus, it has the same initials as the Grinning Pixie.
It does have the same initials as the Grinning Pixie. That is not an accident.
Okay.
Pictured here,
exactly as planned by Linda.
Pictured here with with an alcoholic beverage, which she is often also depicted with.
But do you also want her dress?
No,
No, you want Fola's dress.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the Vigilant Seal? They're the only ones that are not explore, report, or cooperate. True. They just want to
Vigilant Seal is have their own
contain, and destroy.
Have their own thing. Protect, contain, destroy. So basically, they want to. There are a lot of dangers out in the world. So whether we're talking about, incursions from fiends or dangerous relics or rituals gone awry or things like that, they want to protect people from these dangerous happenings.
So they're the SCP Foundation.
Pretty much, yeah.
Secure, contain, protect. Except
there is certainly some inspiration going on here.
Okay.
And contain to sort of. So they would be the ones who make the decision, like, we found this dangerous relic. Do we want to try to lock it away so that we can study it and continue to learn from it? Or do we need to destroy it because it's just too dangerous? So there's definitely some tension sometimes between them and other Pathfinders when they're like, this is too dangerous, we need to destroy it. And other Pathfinders are like, but it's cool, it's valuable, we want to learn from it. No, we need to get rid of this.
Elftro also points out GP is also the initials of gold pieces.
Yes, for sure. So the Vigilant Seal, so the Vigilant Seal faction it is definitely more about handling these dangerous things than about their own personal glory. You may not even necessarily know that a Vigilant Seal that there had been a dangerous thing there.
So is that like a whip she's holding, or is it just a really long rope that's trailing onto the ground by a lot?
I'm not.
If that were me and I had a whip, I probably wouldn't let it drag
It
behind me
looks
like that.
like a whip
I
based
think
on
it
the
is,
handle. I
based
think
on
it
the
is a
handle.
whip. Yeah.
Okay.
We've also got Vigilant Seal gear, such as a sealing chest,
I mean,
which can be
if
used
you're the
to,
Vigilant Seal, you need to have a sealing chest.
used to stick a dangerous magic item in there and stop its magic from leaking out into the surrounding area.
I mean, you don't want to get cursed by the cursed item you're bringing back to protect, contain, and destroy.
That is.
What about the
exactly
alignment ampoule where you can like because holy water is fine, but what if you're fighting something chaotic? They don't have like lawful water, but you can
make that with the alignment ampoule. Yeah.
Also, it goes up to higher amounts of damage than holy water eventually. So if you're an alchemist and you just want to ruin a fiend's day, plus alchemists I think can't make holy water anyway. So this is just a pretty nice bomb to have if you're fighting something with a weakness to an alignment damage. And the metal mist sphere that just like tosses out mist and damage like a lycanthrope or a demon or something that has a weakness based on a metal. And the psychic warding bracelet, which protects you against mental.
Yes. Then we have a profile of faction leader Eondo Klein, who is a famous Pathfinder who retired for quite a while.
Out of outrage with the society.
But he has now returned because he is, while he is deeply skeptical of the Pathfinder Society Old Guard, he's very hopeful about the potential of this newer crop of agents, and that means your characters.
That means you.
That means you. And he is looking also to shape the direction that the Pathfinder Society goes and lend his expertise in that.
All right. So what else?
We've got a bunch of expansions.
Pathfinder Society agent feats. Is this the first time that feats were published for an archetype that appeared in a previous book to expand that archetype?
I believe so. So this is the expansion for the Pathfinder Agent Dedication archetype. An entire spread here of new feats.
Gosh, it doesn't even matter what my class is. Just from this section alone, I don't even remember how many level 4 feats were in the original. I already have, like, almost a class's worth of level 4 feats to choose from.
Yeah. Well, we definitely wanted to make sure that the Pathfinder Agent archetype would be attractive to Pathfinder Society characters.
Well, I mean, the design of archetypes being extensible was always meant to be able to give them more room. Especially those poor archetypes in Lost Omens World Guide that had a mandate that forced them to have almost no feats in them. Well, now... almost no feats. Ha!
There you go.
Pathfinder agents have almost too many 4th level feats. You can get whatever you want. You can have a feat to find haunts. You can have a feat to explore environments, and you could even have a feat that does a strict subset of the initial dedication of Pathfinder agent. What other archetype gives you that? That's totally my fault. I should have noticed that.
That's okay.
When I was doing my pass on it. But it is funny. You also get Archaeologist Warning, which is kind of like the Scout's Warning for Rangers, and all sorts of other fun little abilities. Eidetic Memorization to try to memorize certain facts, and Swap Investment, where you can try to improvise around and invest a magic item while removing a previously invested item.
And we've got some tips from head initiate Janira Gavix, who on the sidebar here. A lot of these sidebars have little tips for pathfinding, and Janira is someone who is pretty much in charge. She's kind of the dean of students for Pathfinder trainees.
Yep.
So
she says, bring chalk, bring mirrors, and bring rope.
Yes.
If you don't do that, then you didn't listen to Janira's top gear tips.
That is true.
Alright, what about the scrolls?
The scrolls, the spells, and the swords. The 3 schools within the Pathfinder Society, which each provide a different focus to the training. Every agent receives training from each of these.
Now, the scrolls, that's like a magic scroll, right?
No. The scrolls is scrolls of lore and knowledge.
So, scrolls are not magical.
Scrolls are not magical.
And if they gave consumables to you, the scrolls would give...
Not scrolls.
Not scrolls.
That's
okay,
correct.
I got it.
That's correct.
I got it now.
The scrolls are about lore and lost knowledge. So As you might expect, they are a lot of folks who focus on the scrolls are also going to be likely to focus on the Grand Archive faction when they do become members. We have the Master of Scrolls, Creighton Shane here, pictured with flowers. Brilliant but rather absent-minded. A brilliant but rather absent-minded individual. And so they. And this provides, so this section here provides lore about the scrolls, what it's like to train with the scrolls. And you've also got a spread here of new feats for the Scroll Master archetype.
The Scroll Master archetype? Oh, looks like some people had to refresh to some blip happened with the stream. That's a little weird. Are we good on our end?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, great.
Can you all hear us now?
Yes.
All right. It looks like the power cord came a little loose, and that was probably what the cause of the blip was. It should be resolved now.
Okay, let's see if it's better now. Is it still stuttering? Or not stuttering? If it's still stuttering, we might also want to hardwire the internet.
I will.
That usually doesn't make a difference, but I haven't seen any response, which either means we lost everyone entirely. Oh gosh, yeah, it just went from 22 people down to 15s, I guess because of the issues.
Alright. We are fully connected to power and hardwired to internet. Are we okay now?
Can anyone hear this message? Anybody? I will ask them in chat in case they can't hear me.
It looks like we probably dropped.
Did we drop? Let's see. Oh, they say it's fine for them.
Oh, it's fine
okay,
now?
we did not drop.
Okay,
just
cool.
nobody was answering.
All right,
The bystander effect.
The bystander effect almost ended the episode earlier than intended.
Okay.
All right, so here we are.
So, you're telling me there's not only more Pathfinder agent feats, there's more Scrollmaster feats. So
That
if I
is
was
right.
a Scrollmaster, I also have all of these feats.
There's even a focus spell.
Just in the middle of Scrollmaster?
Scrollmaster focus spell.
I thought you said that they weren't really the spell ones as much.
Well, they aren't really they can create it's for creating a description of your surroundings.
Oh, so it is very like book and scroll focused of a focus spell.
That is true.
Okay.
And so you've got a lot of new options here to protect your mind from intrusion, or to apply your knowledge in a variety of ways.
Bestiary Scholar. That lets you use different skills to identify the bestiary. And that's a pretty cool one too.
Mm-hmm.
So looks like there's all sorts of fun Scrollmaster feats that
a lot of things
that
that play around with knowledge, recall knowledge, being able to having an intuition for magic.
I mean, with all of these, it would be pretty easy to just take your first level feat, or if you're a spellcaster, not have one, and then actually for a spellcaster, just have literally 100% of your feats be Pathfinder Society Agent and Scrollmaster or one of the other master archetypes, and not take any feats from your original class.
Yeah, for sure. Then we have the spells, who are the actual.
So these are actually about spells,
yes,
right?
these are actually about spells.
If they gave me a consumable, they would give me a scroll.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So we have the spells, who are so again are very focused on magical knowledge, and that doesn't just mean that they only care about spellcasters. They are interested in training agents who have magic to use magic, but also training agents of all sorts to react to and get around the sorts of things.
Look how many Aeon stones Serena Wester has. Some of them seem like they're the same stone too, but they might be those types that you want to have multiple of.
Pairs or whatever. Well, she certainly has a lot. Serena Wester, Master of Spells.
I mean, her shirt doesn't say this.
She's also a cleric of Nethys.
I mean, you see the Nethys on her book, but her shirt doesn't say this, but it should say, like, I was trapped in the crystal womb for like a decade, and all I got was turning into an Oriad and these lousy Aeon stones.
Yeah, I mean, she had no idea how long she was there because she was studying this vast archive of knowledge.
That makes sense.
Yes, she.
Oh, they actually were really delayed, so they were gonna make a joke about Janir asking people to bring the mirrors and rope.
Oh, I see. Yeah. But we are caught up now, which is good. And we have as for the Scrollmaster, the Spellmasters. Spellmaster feats as well.
Familiar form lets you. What does that do? You turn into a familiar.
You turn into the type of small creature that looks like a familiar. Familiar form. You can run around and pretend to be a familiar. You can recover energy from a recently disrupted spell to try to cast it. You can be protected from. You can help yourself have additional protection from magic, more ability to counterspell, some shielding runes that protect you against damaging spells, and all sorts of things that are. And what is familiar form? It is a focus spell that is a Spellmaster focus spell that is presented here on this spread. So definitely a heavy focus here on using magic and on protecting yourself from.
Also, the mobile magical combat feat is pretty good.
Yes.
Where you dart around the battlefield casting spells, moving and striking because you cast a spell already. It's pretty handy. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I think that the mobile magical combat feat, and this may be wrong, but I feel like it was like something that was included when Kate wrote some wizard feats for Advanced Player's Guide, and it didn't fit and wasn't exactly a wizardy thing, and that I put in here because we had more space in the Spellmaster feats for Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide, which was coming around afterwards anyway.
Yeah, I mean that certainly happens. Like we mentioned this several times, things that there wasn't space for in other books.
And I mean, she was already on the author list.
Yeah, that we put into later books.
So the Spellmaster look like they have some pretty interesting spell abilities.
And then we have the swords.
So is that actually about swords? Or are you telling me that the swords are a metaphor for international diplomacy?
No. The swords are actually about swords
Yay!
and other weapons. The swords also tend to be a group that teaches survival techniques. And survival techniques and a lot of
when you're out in the wilderness, what do you take to survive? A sword.
Well, also about, orienteering and finding food and water and things like that.
I'm looking at Marcus Farabellis' backpack. Does he really need all of that for survival? Like, all of those weapons?
Well, he might tell you that, one of those is a cold iron weapon and one of those is a bludgeoning weapon and one of those is a piercing weapon and he's got a slashing weapon and he's ready for all sorts of.
One of them is a golf club in case there's a golf course out there.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me.
So the swords also teach some other practical skills such as disarming traps and sneaking around. So a lot of your fightery and roguey type skills are going to be things that are, and rangery skills are going to be the types of things that are really focused on in the School of Swords.
So the swords really seems like they have a lot of Pathfinders then, because it feels like the scholarly types will almost split off some of like the more mental ability score focus from the spells, except the scrolls probably have some of the like investigatory roguey people.
Yeah,
too.
they do.
That makes sense.
Well, but the thing is that while Pathfinders can certainly be more affiliated with one of the schools, and even to the point of taking one of these archetypes, such as Swordmaster. You every agent trains with every school.
Look at that Swordmaster.
For a well-rounded education.
She's going to kill someone. And there's all sorts of fun Swordmaster abilities to protect your allies, because Swordmasters are also about working together and protecting your allies.
Yes.
The swords have always sort of been about that kind of camaraderie and protection. So you can do emergency medical assistance.
You can do improvised crafting.
You
to
can do the
quickly
defend exploration activity while traveling your full speed, so your shield is just up. You can exercise more. I think all of us could use that feat.
That is true. So there's a lot of things that let you refine your own martial techniques as well as assist your allies.
Mm-hmm.
And handle a variety of dangerous situations that might come up.
Oh, there's a good one, which is you can help your allies re-roll against incapacitation, because nobody wants to fail at incapacitation.
Yes.
Ever. And, of course, Steve off Catastrophe, where you can take all the critical damage from a critical hit for your ally, and your ally takes none.
And that doesn't mean that the swords are always looking to use the sword as a solution to everything. There's, for example, the Tense Negotiator feat that can help you avoid conflict in the first place.
I mean, that's important, right? You can protect people more by just not fighting. So it helps you to not make people extremely angry at you when you critically fail to make an impression.
And then we get, in this next spread, into the most mysterious part of the Pathfinder Society, the 10. The December, the shadowy leaders of the Pathfinder Society, who, until very recently, all 10 of them were completely behind masks, and almost no one knew who they were. There is now one open member of the Decemvirate, Eliza Petulengro, who is sort of acts as the liaison to the rest of the Decemvirate as well. And if you are playing along with the second year of Pathfinder Society scenarios, you may well have discovered the identity of another member as well.
Another member?
Yes.
Don't spoil it, Linda.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to. But you can see the Decemvirate masks here.
That is 6 of them, but are the rest of them...
On the next page, we have the other
There they are. There are 9, because one of them got destroyed.
Yes. If you've seen sort of the iconic Decemvirate member art from the past with that mask with 3 spires, and you wonder what happened there, I recommend playing that high-level arc that came right at the end, passing the torch arc right at the end of Pathfinder First Society and First Edition, which explains exactly what happened there.
Plus, there's other important Pathfinder Society people, like Akir Ahakam, the former leader of the Exchange.
So these are both members of the Pathfinder Society here, and also close allies of the Pathfinder Society. So if you are doing a campaign that, a campaign that touches on the Pathfinder Society, then you'll want to know who these folks are.
That's right. Like Ashasar, the current leader of the Concordance of Elements, which was formerly a faction.
He's a liaison. He was the leader of the Concordance of Elements, the faction Concordance of Elements, and a prominent member of the organization Concordance of Elements.
Yes, which is different, because he was the liaison to the Seat of Balance, which was the most important seat in the organization Concordance, while being the leader of the faction.
There is a lot of lore in this book.
There's a lot of things, and Aya Alahe, like Linda said, is not even a Pathfinder. She's just a merchant who wanted to help the Pathfinders when there was a problematic situation.
Yeah, she was the acting venture captain for a while, out of her profitable mercantile enterprise. And we have a wide variety of folks here. We've got some more information on the leaders of the minor factions. We've got like Urwal here, the leader of the Verdant Wheel, and so you'll see a lot of folks being featured here. And then we get into the Pathfinder Society's lodges, which was really a great opportunity to get into what these lodges were, not just what kinds of amenities they offer, what their relationships are with nearby organizations, what kinds of missions they're likely to send agents on, and what kinds of unique challenges each of them face. So we have...
we could start on the lodges probably in the next episode.
I think we'll need to start on the lodges in the next episode. That is true, because we are at just about an hour here. But we can start again next time with the Pathfinder Society lodges.
You skipped through it, but like some of those people on the previous page are like a giant dragon.
That's true. One of them is a giant dragon. Yeah, you've got giant dragons. You've got you have Ygritte Moneymaker, the a goblin.
Time dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this Iruxi Urwal.
Yeah, as like I said, the
Yep.
leader of the leader of the Verdant Wheel faction. We got a lot of folks in here.
I think the dragon was the dragon in the room.
The dragon really is the dragon in the room. That's true.
All right. So that's where we will stop for now. We're about halfway through, but not quite, with the Pathfinder Society Guide, and we can come back to reacting to all of these launches on Tuesday in what will indeed be an extension of this episode. So let's say bye to YouTube and then do our closing. Bye!
Bye!